Good morning, students of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Good to see, I'm sure you're saying it's good to see us back this morning. Welcome to the midweek episode, Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Here we are today, Wednesday, the 3rd day of December in the year of our Lord 2025. Good and great to be in the land of the living, to share, as CC would say, to do God's work. So welcome one and all. Welcome. It's good to have you here. And as we say when you come, we share the live, man. We got to keep reminding you, share the live and give us the thumbs up. So here we are this next day, Wednesday, the 3rd day of December 2025. We're here to bring you some more credible, valuable information. So share, and let them know that we are on. I suspect that some people might have been a little worried given the way the program ended on Monday, this abrupt end. I'll explain that to you in a while, what really transpired there. So please share, let them know that we're on. And we're going to be with you in a short while to give you the credible, valuable information. My colleague CC, he is in the studio, but he had some technical issues. I hope by the time I'm ready to bring him in, that those issues would have been resolved. So yes, share, and we are going to be with you. And as I said, it's always a good thing to be in the land of the living. Every time you wake up, you're in the land of the living. Give praise and thanks to the Almighty, because without His grace and mercies, that would not have happened. It's not by ourselves these things are happening. These things are not happening by ourselves. The good Lord has been kind to us, and He allows us to see another beautiful day. So share, and let them know that we're on. As I said, the way how the program ended so abruptly, people on YouTube get knocked out, and then the ones on Facebook were there for a long time after, and they're saying they can. There's nothing. Just the thing. Just the clock was just ticking, and there was nothing, and that had to be corrected. So here we are again. As I've said, share, and we are going to be with you, give you the credible, valuable information. We're going to do some quick acknowledgement of those who came in early. Always good to acknowledge those who came in early. And the first person in this morning was Baled. This program was scheduled at 8 this morning, Eastern Standard Time, that is New York, and at 9 o'clock, Guyana time. And then Baled, down from the hills very, very early, and he's there. Then it was Jakey was here as well. And as I indicated in terms of how the names are displayed, I understand that is something on Facebook now, because I understand that even other programs, the names are now displayed in the same manner. So there's nothing we can do. It is displayed in the form like an email at so with a number. Then we have Earl. Then it was Grantley. Then Anne Aubrey from all the way from Canada. Danny is here. Felicia. Then it was Pamela. Then Carl, Winston, and Winston is from California. Carlton, my squad mate, 9430 is here. And then they all came at 8. Then it was Brian, Marcia, Pinky, Courtney, Derek, Chotty is here. Ivor. Then it was Malcolm. Malcolm. Then it Rosalind, Joy, Peter, Marcus, Kerry is here, Janella. They all came within the first minute. Congratulations to you folks for getting into the schoolyard that early. And then when the doors were open, let me see who came in first. When the doors were open, it was the first person is Brian. Then after Brian was Junior. Then Joan came back, and it was Charlene and Umur. And the list goes on and on and on. Sandra Habu from Essequibo Coast is here. Ingrid, Carlton, Pinky, and the list goes on. So yeah, share. And the announcements, and please, well, we don't have any deaths to announce today, which is a good thing. We hope we can say that more frequently, right? But we need to remind you about the death anniversary of Sergeant, not anniversary, the count of Police Sergeant Alex Vaughn. Today is 628 days. 628 days since he was killed. And as we know by now, they said accidental discharge by another policeman, and we ain't hear nothing more. We haven't heard anything more as to what's the position with the investigation, whether the matter went to the DPP, whether an inquest has been ordered. We ain't hear nothing no more. There's a sound of silence. That is what is happening. And the death of a police sergeant on duty, they say. And that is what is going on. So that is the sad announcement. In terms of the more pleasant ones, birthday, birth anniversary. Today is the birth anniversary, I understand, of retired Assistant Commissioner Gavin Primo, 0517. I always remember that was Gavin's number, 0517. Gavin spent a lot of time in traffic. I understand today is his birth anniversary. Today is also the birth anniversary of retired woman assistant superintendent, I think she was, Pamela King. Pamela is observing today. Another ex-policeman, Samuel Williams, is observing a natal day today. Karen Todd, I think she retired as a chief inspector. She used to be at the police band, right? She is observing an anniversary. And a friend of mine, a former member of the Guyana Defense Force, Lieutenant Colonel Denzel Carmichael, is observing a natal day today. So congratulations to those. And then we have, in terms of advanced birthday greetings, tomorrow, I understand, is the birth anniversary of retired Superintendent Keaton King. He's a student, he's a regular student in the program. And also retired woman assistant Superintendent Tessa Smith. If you all remember Tessa spent most of her years in traffic, most of her years, retired untainted. She spent most of her years in traffic, and nobody could have pointed a finger at her. She's one of the people who enforcer, female enforcer. There were others too, but she was there as a female enforcer in Georgetown primarily. So to all those who are celebrating today, who celebrated recently, and those who are going to be celebrating in the near future, all the best to you. All the best. Remember again, CC, and then I'm going to make the other announcements. Let me hope I can get in. I think let me say, CC, welcome.
Good morning.
Okay, good.
Happy to be in the land of the living to do God's work. Special birthday greetings to Gavin Primo, retired Assistant Commissioner of Police. And I'm happy that you're in happier times, because you had some terrible times over the past year or so. So enjoy your birthday. And I'm sure that your wife Carol is going to make sure that today would be a pleasant day.
Yes. And for the other announcements, let me move. You know, we know that cricket is there. I'm a little distracted because I'm following the score in India, with India and South Africa. India, in the 50 over game, India made 358 for 5 off of the 50 overs. And South Africa currently they are 328 for 6. They need 31 more runs off 31 balls, right? So it looked like another good game. Whatever way this ends, a very good game. Last night, we had the second day of the first test between West Indies and New Zealand. West Indies, well, I wasn't surprised. Collapsed. They were going so good. And then they collapsed and they were all out for 100. South Africa made what? They bowled out South Africa, New Zealand for 231 or something like that. And they were going good at 100 and a little bit for 2. And we say, all right, Shehoop and Chandapal were there. They're going to grind. But then they all collapsed to be all out for 106 or something. And New Zealand batted him a second time. They were 30 without loss. So that was just the second day. But one can expect this is going to be finished sometime around the 4th day or so on, if so long. Now, let me say this, because a particular person indicated to me yesterday he was annoyed at the rate at which Chandapal was batting. So I said, what you were making nice about a 5-day test match, And if the man laboring and taking the time, it's a 5-day test match. It's not a 1 day or a T20. And as I indicated, the test match got to that long. But he was upset over the fact that he said even full task bowl and Chandapal pad, he was blocking and so on. But as he survived, he made an half century. He made half a century. So did Cheo. And you see what happened once he was out, Chandapal, right? The old card, the old pack of card came tumbling down. The old pack came collapsed. That is the story. So for test match, we get accustomed to this T20 and 1 day thing. We want to see a lot of shots, but when you're playing test match, it's about occupying the crease and making runs. Very few test matches last 5 days now, very few last the full 5 days. So we got to appreciate the finer points in the game. And tonight at 11 p.m., that is New York time. I think, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 o'clock. We have the second Ashes test match between Australia and England. So for us cricket fans, we're having a feast. And let's enjoy. Let's enjoy. Now, I know CC gonna want to say something about cricket. So I'm gonna bring him in. He's a cricket fan like me. He and his wife are, well, perhaps they're even more fans than I am now because I don't lose my sleep to watch, I don't lose my sleep to watch. So CC, what do you think about the matches that are going on?
Yes, I watched the cricket there West Indies, although some of the players there I didn't know them. I think my wife know them more than I do. But I agree with you that Chandra Paul is there and his occupation of the crease. And we need somebody to occupy the crease, to stay there, to grind down. We need somebody there. And then tonight, the big one in Australia. Remember the last match, I think, finished in 2 days. Let's see what's going to happen at this time. So there's lots of cricket there. But I hope that we can grind down, and play some better cricket in New Zealand. Don't blame Chandra Paul. Hope that Lee bat the same way and Lee occupy the crease so that we can at least, if we win, we could draw. But then you get many more days to come with the cricket.
Well, for that to draw, the weather got to intervene bigly for that match to end up in a draw. The weather have to intervene bigly in that. So, so the first test in Ashes test, 2 days, and they rated the wicket as poor. That is the ICC rated the wicket as poor. Well, let's see what will happen. The update with the match India and South Africa. The South Africa require 24 runs from 27 balls. So less than a run over. They have 4 wickets in hand. So let's see how that will go. Now let me remind you all, when we were here last, that was on Monday, I told you about the latest episode of Caribbean Tea, that program with Vivian Williams. And somebody told me that I said Vivian Richards, which indeed I did, because it was a mistake when I look back at it. That program. Again, I invite you all to look. Many people have asked, and I was able to send the recording to them. It is a fantastic, fantastic program with attorney at law, Dr. Vivian Williams, explaining in great detail this whole thing about extradition and show you what is happening in the Azudin and Nazar Mohammed's case. And I say this, they got to think, it is clear, it shows clearly when you look at all the precedents of similar cases and so on, that this thing is politically motivated despite what they are telling you. Listen to Dr. Williams explain the whole process, especially as it relates to the extradition of that Brazilian person. Listen, some people, as I've said, I've sent, some people put in the comment they wanted the program, but unless I have you on WhatsApp, it might be difficult, or Messenger is going to be difficult. So I am willing to forward it to whoever would like to see it, and I recommend all the students should have a look. And then you get a different perspective, notwithstanding what they're saying, what the government people are saying. Listen to that program and the previous episode, and you will get a clear understanding as to what really is going on. you will get an understanding. Now, let me tell you this. The program, as I indicated, ended abruptly on Monday. Now, we were in the process of um, telling you about that incident in Northwest District where they called that drunken policeman with a AK-47 brandishing and threatening people, and then wrongs firing and so on. And but the program was pulled, right? And we discontinued the program. And Facebook informed me that the reason why the program was pulled and the taking off of YouTube was because of that gun firing. Say it's against community standard to have that type of thing shown. Well, that's Facebook rules. I have to abide by Facebook rules. But I know we have a lot of other issues. But I recall showing some time ago the incident in Agricola where a man was brandishing AR-style rifle. Remember, running along the road and shooting and all that sort of thing. I showed tape with a security guard firing rounds in the air indiscriminately, and we showed that. And so I did not expect this to happen. I didn't realize that it would have violated the standards. And as a law-abiding person, and of course you ain't got no choice because Facebook said, not Facebook, YouTube said that you can't show it. That's it. So the entire program was stopped, and that episode 126 was not put on YouTube. But what I did, I was able to go into the platform that we're using and edit that same broadcast, bring it down to 106, 1 hour and 6 minutes, and take out the introduction, take out the shooting part. So it's there. The body is there for those things that we dealt with other than that shooting incident. So that is the reason why we came to that abrupt end on Monday. And as you have noticed now, we are pleased because they did say that whilst it violated the community standards, it was not a strike on speaking out. In other words, they're not going to ban you on the program. But I guess now we have to be more careful in the videos that we show, make sure they don't have any gun shooting and all that gun brandishing. God, they talk about the display of guns and the shooting, they warned about that. So we're going to follow those guidelines to make sure we can come and bring you credible, valuable information. So that is the reason for that. One of the things I did not, because of the manner in which the program ended, I did not get to tell you about the court appearances. I remember Monday, the program was not, the gates were not open at 8 o'clock because I had to go to court. And basically what happened is that I was in court Monday morning, and in that case, what they call it anonymity of complainant, right? So that matter is postponed to the 20th of January. I think it has to do with submissions and all of that at this stage, 20th of January. So I have court appointment. Let me see if you can remember. 20th of January for that. 23rd of January, I have a matter in the High Court that is a civil matter. Right? I am the I filed civil lawsuit in that one. And then on the 20th of February, we have the decision should be handed down in the other matter. So those are the dates on the horizon. So I should have told you this at the beginning on Monday. On Monday, I did not do so. And then by the time I realized and we got to the afternoon, the program was pulled. So that is what took place on Monday. And let me bring in CC for him to make any comment that he wishes to make at this stage. CC?
All right, nothing really, the court matters would finish, and we know that you are innocent. So let's wait for the court proceedings.
Yes, my brother. Yes. And somebody just messaged me to say, Mr. Snow, you were correct. So I had to take a pause to see what you was talking about. He is talking about, I didn't read any article as one, but I just saw a flash that the firearms charge against Doggy has been dismissed. I tell you, you remember some time ago, Doggy was on the Square of the Revolution, or some people would say Square of the Revulsion. And they had this big altercation and they charge him for unlawful possession of a firearm, even though they said that the firearm or the thing that appeared to be a firearm on the video was not recovered. They didn't recover no firearm. They saw him brandishing something looking like a firearm. He was charged for unlawful possession of firearm, right? Then recover no firearm. How do you charge for unlawful possession of firearm if you haven't recovered the firearm? And that is the question I ask. It's policing. There's basic policing, right? You might get you on other offenses, but you have to have the firearm to tender, because whatever it was, the ballistic people have to show, go to court and prove that that was indeed a firearm as defined by the Firearms Act of Guyana. But if you ain't find a firearm, you're charging a person for lawful possession of firearm based on some video that you saw. I don't think it can work like that. It cannot. And I said so to the student who messaged me to say that, yeah, Mr. So you were right. I always knew that I was right. I was police, CC was police. Not them people who wearing police uniform and are not police, right? They're wearing police uniform, but they're not police, because there's something very, very basic. But again, it has to do with who the person is. They're going after Daggy. And mind you, I know no brief for Daggy, right? But I said that based on what we saw, who gonna go and get the evidence to say this man had a firearm? What you gonna tender in court to say it's a firearm? These people are only wasting the court's time. They're wasting the court's time. And I don't know if this matter had gone to the DPP for legal advice. And if it went to the DPP for legal advice, then they too are complicit in wasting the court's time. Many of these matters that they put before the court should never go there. They are wasting precious judicial time. That is why many of the matters that are before these overburdened magistrates have to be dragged out and dragged out and dragged out. Some of the matters should never get there, like this Daggy matter. Should have never gotten there. Right? So I thought I'll mention that as it came to me. I can read the details, and you're going to get an opportunity, I suspect, to read the details, because these things are on social media. You're going to get the opportunity. Update to the cricket. South Africa need 13 runs off 16 balls. And the 13 runs off 16 balls. They need just under 5 runs over. So at this stage, I think the odds are in favor of South Africa chasing down this 358 runs that India set. And incidentally, when we talk about that, Kohli, another 100, 2 consecutive ODI 100s. When you are great, you're great. Greatness is greatness. As I said, CC would tell you, form is temporary, but class is permanent. And CC and Kohli is class. Let me bring in CC for him to comment on this Daggy matter that has been, we understand, is dismissed this morning. CC, your views, my brother.
Well, if you're going to charge me for unlawful possession of firearm, you got to produce the damn firearm. And only that, the ballistic man has got to come before the court and say you examine it, and it falls under the Firearm Act, capable of being fired. That the ballistic man has got to come in before the court and give the evidence. I wonder if he went there and said that he examined an imaginary firearm, just like how one said that he examined a fragment.
Thank you. Got a little freeze in there. I think CC is frozen. So let me carry on. Yeah, look, when we discuss these matters, right? We're discussing what's supposed to be regular policing matters. You are not going to get any conviction for possession of firearm if the firearm is not recovered, or if the thing that purports to be the firearm is not recovered. What are you going to tell the court? That you saw something on social media that appears to be a firearm? That's the evidence you're gonna lead. Even if you bring, let's say you produce the video evidence, someone has to go into the witness box and testify to the fact that what was recovered from the defendant is indeed a firearm under the Firearms Act. If and then of course the question may come into a question about possession. whether it's actual or constructive possession, that is a different issue altogether. But you have to have something to present to the court to show that this is what the man had in firearm. And I hope that this matter was I think they're saying I think they said that the matter dismissed. That is what they said, matter dismissed. I hope it was discontinued and not dismissed. And matter of fact, it was withdrawn, right? Because they're looking real thin. They're looking bad for charge a man for firearm when the firearm was never recovered, right? It was never recovered. So we have that. And then there's another matter I saw this morning, well, it was in the papers, I think yesterday or sometime. A woman in, let me read it. Woman jailed for 1 year, cybercrime. Woman jailed for 1 year. They say, I don't have it here, do I? I don't think I have it in the thing here. But hold on, let me see if I have it to tell you. It's a case where a woman in Lethem, I think it was, you see she's the driver of an ambulance, some thing on social media. She was charged with cybercrime. She pleaded guilty to the charge, and she is jailed for 1 year and fined $1 million Ghana. Jail for a year and fined $1 million Ghana. The whole issue here is the inconsistent application of the law. You got other people doing the gods on social media, cussing people, abusing people, they're doing all sort of thing. They don't see a code step. This woman, I don't know if maybe she did not have proper legal representation. I don't think she was represented. She plead guilty, 1 year and $1 million fine. Right? 1 year and $1 million fine. The unequal application of the law, that is part of the problem. That is what, it doesn't give confidence to the population that the law is going to be applied equally across the board. I mean, I understand that circumstances and situations are different, right? We know that. But something seems to be wrong. This is a clear case, not this case in particular, but other cases put together. Animal farm, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. It's an animal farm. That is why you have all of this going on. Animal farm. I don't know if CC is able to come back in. I think so. Let me see. CC, you were frozen just now and I had to thing. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, the same cybercrime act that the Attorney General said he would have repealed and introduced new and modern act. But now they're using it. They're weaponizing it. I agree, some people need to come under the Cybercrime Act. Some people daily, they're committing offenses under the Cybercrime, but nothing is being done. And as you mentioned, Paul, it's animal farm. All men are equal, but some are more equal than others. They need to look at the Cybercrime Act and how they're using it, They're weaponizing it. Although I agree that some people should be charged under the act, but then some little chauvinists, and then to shut you up, and they put you under the Cybercrime Act, the same act that the Attorney General said he would have repealed. Then he done serve a term as Attorney General, then on the second term, and he didn't do anything about it.
Right. So yeah. I guess during this new term they're gonna repeal the act during this term and introduce this modern Cybercrime Act, where you say modern after some United Nations thing and all of that he had said. All of that. But when Andalal talk, you gotta take it with a bag of salt, You gotta take it with a bag of salt. And for cricket fans, let me keep updating you. India, South Africa require 5 runs from 1.5 overs, 5 runs from 9 balls. So if I were a betting man at this stage, no doubt my money would have gone on South Africa. But cricket is cricket. They need 5 runs from 9 balls. So But cricket is cricket, a game of glorious uncertainties. But I believe this result is uncertain. I think this result is going to be a massive fillip to the South African team, right? And when I say Philip, I ain't talking about the person named Philip, Because I remember, can you recall some years ago, I don't know if you, because we became officers together. We had an officers conference, and somebody made a statement about something. We'll give a Philip. I think it was Mike Gordon, who was the commander of region, what we call G Division then, spoke about the word Philip, and a certain officer saw the senior officer, Philip, who is he, man? Who is he? He didn't know the meaning of the word Philip other than when it is used as a name. So these are things you remember from time to time. Now, let me say this, right? Let me say this. I have been making inquiries about the head of the police corporate communication unit, the corporate propaganda unit, Mark Ramatar. Right? Mark Ramatar. Because a board whisper that the man chuck. You know what I mean by that? I know we get some students here who maybe are not familiar with some of these Guyanese phrases and so on. The man left the work. I saw the man left the work. My information is that he was called by this squatter. You know who is a squatter by now? He's called. And he was told in a very rough way, what he considered very disrespectful way, that he making releases that are embarrassing to the police force. Imagine that. There's a year that he was told, hey, them release you making, and I understand nice language was used, that you're embarrassing the police force. You're embarrassing the police force. And they had some heated exchange. And then I hear the man decide for 10-day resignation, walk off the job. Because the man said, and this is what I am advised. The man said, no dunce should be speaking to him like that. That is what it is alleged that he said. No dunce should be speaking to him like that, and he left the work. That is what I understand. That he left the job. So perhaps they will come out with a statement to tell us that it is not true. I know Big Smith does get the contacts. Maybe Big Smith can find out for us and let us know if my sources are accurate or not. But I hear that Mark Ramatar, the head of the police corporate communications unit, that propaganda unit, that over the years writing a whole set of stupidness, right? Under his guidance. He's in charge of the unit. Whether he wrote it himself or not, he has a supervisory role. So when the things come out, they come out under, well, not only Mark Ramatar, but the commissioner and the crime chief and all them when he issue these things. So I understand at last the man said, he can't take it no more. Oh Lord, I can't take it no more. And he walk off the work. And I hear some police rank now is in charge there. And that is what I understand. So maybe they're gonna come out with a statement to other. And again, they talk about transparency, but something like that where the head of the corporate communication unit, who basically is the face, is the man who issue media releases and interact with the media and so on. If he left the work, come and tell us that the man has resigned. Come and tell us that the man is there. But no, and I said it's over 2 weeks now that the man gone and they're not saying anything. Let me bring in CC for him to make his comment on that. CC, come help me out here, man. I hear man gone, man. I hear man gone. And let me say this before you come in. Let me say this. If it is that Mark Ramatar has left the job as head of the corporate communications unit of the Ghana Police Force, 2 words: good riddance. Good riddance. Let me hear you, CC.
I heard the same, and there's a
Sorry.
female. I heard the same story, and I understand there's a female, a police superintendent out there about her, who is presently running the place, but will retire not too long from now too. So perhaps they're not forecasting, then they're not looking into the future. But as you say, good riddance, gone. You should have gone a long time if you gone for sure. You should have gone a very long time ago.
Yeah, because he did more to damage the police reputation, and in terms of transparency and all that, he did a lot to damage the reputation of the police. So, again, that is the type of political interference that bringing down the guy in the police force. Because despite the fact they're going to come and they're going to dance, it's them sending there. In 2020, when the PPP came into office, all of a sudden, let me understand this. I had said some time ago that they need some civilian to be a part of this public relation thing, right? Public information, public relation, but not to spread propaganda and lies and so on. Not to spread propaganda and lies, but they brought him in there to do just that, to spread propaganda, to be a police force cannot afford to do that. So many releases would come out from them, and then the video evidence surface contradicting what they say. You got a man who is not a police, never had any police training as far as I know, issuing releases, and it would appear as though these releases are not cleared by people in the system who should know better. So if it is that Mark Ramatar has gone, good riddance. And then the other part is it to bad rubbish. Good riddance to bad rubbish, right? So good news too for those of you who like cricket. South Africa beat India. They just chased down the 359 that they were required to make with 6 wickets down with 4 balls to spare. Set up the series nicely. Yeah, so he never, going back to Mark Ramatar, never brought credit to the Guyana police force. Never brought credit. So maybe when they inserted him there, they had expected him to do a better job. But from very long, they recognized that the man going in the wrong direction. He should not have, if it is that he resigned, he should not have been given the opportunity to resign. He should have been sent packing. Imagine this man, when you look back at some of the releases, one that I would always remember of this decomposed body that was found in Region 3, and the police corporate communication unit issued a release to say that the body was taken to the hospital to be pronounced dead. A decomposed body, they got to carry it for it to be officially pronounced dead. What nonsense is that? Decomposed body? So a decomposed body could have been alive? And we have to say it's only somebody without any sense. You even have to get police training to realize that. A decomposed body is taken to the mortuary, the hospital, to be identified and for the cause of death to be determined, not to be pronounced dead, right? Not to be pronounced dead. And there's only one. There's not the one. There are so many others. So, good riddance to bad rubbish. Now let me move on. That's Mark Ramatar. There's another question that I want to ask the police. And I know they listen, you know. I know they listen. And this relates to retired retired assistant commissioner and the special assistant commissioner, Edgar Thomas, who was brought back to head the presidential guard in 2020. Edgar Thomas. And the question I want to ask is, what is the status of that former officer? I say former because my records, or the records, would show that he attained the age of 50, of 60 rather, sometime in October. He attained the age of 60 sometime in October. I remember that well because when in 2020 he was brought back to serve in the force, right? We were still there at the Police Service Commission. I was the chair of that body. And he was on pre-retirement leave in August 2020. And he was recalled, he was due to retire from the force from the 1st of September 2020. They brought him back. Yeah, we approve it. At the commission, we approve it. But once you're brought back, you can only serve up to the age of 60 as a police. You can't get no rank in the police force once you pass 60, right? So if they have him still there in the presidential guard, he's a civilian heading the presidential guard. Civilian. Now you can't bring him back in the force or allow him to continue to serve after he has reached the age of 60. And the same thing goes to the squatter. Yeah, I could keep you there and all the running down of the organization, but when he hits 60, he gotta go. Right? So I want to know again, in the mode of transparency. What is the position with Special Assistant Commissioner Edgar Thomas? Is he still parading as a police? You know, this issue came up when I was in the commission with Makanlal, retired Assistant Commissioner, Miss Squaddy. Makanlal, right? He had been retained past 55, and he was working at the head of the Office of Professional Responsibility. And when he meet the age of 60, they kept him on contract, right? He was there on contract, and I had to make the point because the man, a civilian on contract with the Office of Professional Responsibility, with the police force, was writing and investigating police officers and inspectors. And I called a meeting with the command of the force. I said, don't let this happen under my watch. As a chairman, I said, the Constitution is clear as to how disciplinary matters involving inspectors to assistant commissioners should be dealt with. And no way Makanlal, a civilian, and even if he was a police, could not be dealing with it. That's a matter for the commission to deal with. And I read the Riot Act to them. And then I even went so far to tell them, I remember well, I wrote to say, no file must go to him involving discipline. He mustn't see, he mustn't write, he mustn't say nothing with this file. Because it's a violation of the Constitution. That is how I clamp down on that. So I don't know what is the position with Thomas. I don't know what is the position with Thomas. Maybe CC can able to advise us. CC, let me bring you in for you to tell me if you know anything about Edgar Thomas. What is the position with Edgar Thomas, man?
Well, I know he passed 60. I know that for sure. But after then, as you mentioned, 60 and you're out. 60 and you're out. So right now he's a civilian, but they had civilian running President Guard, you know. I think so they bring a Calypsonian, can't remember his name off one. They bring a Calypsonian, and he was there for a short period of time. So I know what is the present status with Thomas. I remember the issue with Makanlal too, you know. I remember clearly, well, I've been on the Service Commission, where Makanlal, he ain't get no rank, and he investigating matter, he put up a recommendation, he doing all kind of thing. Until you, Paul, put a stop into it as chairman of the Police Service Commission. So I don't know with Thomas, but Thomas time done.
Yeah, well, I remember this. When we talk about the civilian, the Presidential Guard, that was in 1994. I remember I was the head of the Presidential Guard in 1994, and I left to go to Staff College in the UK. And when I came back, it was Slingshot Dre Paul. You're going to hear a lot about him this time with the Christmas. He get two beautiful Christmas songs, Caribbean Christmas and so on, right? But Dre Paul took over, and I think they gave him rank in the Special Constabulary, some superior rank of superintendent or all that. But he was a civilian, never a member of the force. They brought him in, and he came there to head the Presidential Guard. And I went back to traffic at some stage. We built a very good we built up a very good relationship. And he told me how frustrated he was, right, with the unprofessionalism of the people there. Because when he got there, he was led to believe that they had people in the guard who were unprofessional, people who came over from the previous administration. And then he told me, he discovered that was not so. The people who are unprofessional were those people who the PPP brought in. They brought in all sorts of people, cane cutters, rice farmers, and all sorts of things to be be part of the Presidential Guard, right? And I suspect that's one of the reasons why he had perhaps the shortest stay at the Presidential Guard. Because when I went there and I asked them about physical training and so on, they want to tell they don't know Pete. I said, well, you got some men with some big guts like what we displayed the other day, said they're guarding the president. When I walked over to the presidential complex, men sit down there eating out a butter bowl and all sort of thing in the open public. And so I said, no, that cannot be. You get a butter bowl, fine. That might be the fact that you can't afford anything else, but go somewhere private. And I clamped down on all of them things. I got to run PT. When I set the distance, whether you walk it or you crawl it in the mornings, you have to do that, right? And I started to put some systems in place. Brought men from the TSU, Liverpool, and some other people to do drills and to investigate disciplinary matters. Quick time, man, when I come back from England, The man said, no, don't go back there. Drapal is there. And that was it. So I know the story, Yeah, I know the story, right? I know. But let me come to another issue. I saw circulated on social media, and because of the warning from YouTube, I can't show it because you get gun brandishing and gun firing. But let me read what is reported in news source. This is Gordon Mosley. Gunplay and threats between police ranks and armed men on the probe. The Ghana Police Forces investigated an armed confrontation between a group of police officers and gun-carrying party-goers outside a city nightclub recently. A video recording of the incident surfaced on social media today, that is yesterday, showing a number of men armed with guns and police ranks in plain clothes arguing with each other. At one point, loud gunshots were heard, and the video recording also captures one of the men being gun-butted and others drawing their weapons. It is unclear what led to the confrontation, but news source understands that several persons, including the police ranks, who were present, will be questioned as part of the widespread investigation into the incident. A senior law enforcement official told news source that the incident is worrying and raises fresh concerns about the number of persons in the country with firearms. The official said the response of the policemen who were on the scene is also worrying. Well, I saw this thing. And I saw, was it yesterday or this morning, a lawyer wrote a short post on social media, and I agree with you. He said, guy needs to get some strange people. Gun brandishing and gun firing, and people stand up around there, nobody and ducking for cover or so on. People have become immune to that type of thing. Gun firing, gun shooting, men brandishing firearm, men in civilian clothes. At one stage, a man in khaki police clothes, which seems to be an inspector and officer, intervened. The next man with bulletproof vests and so on. But they say, according to the thing, they have to investigate. I don't do my investigation. And I have already been advised. It has been revealed to me who are the people involved in the brandishing of the gun. One of the persons there brandishing firearm is said to be 20 years old. 20 years old, and he has a licensed Glock 9mm pistol. He's licensed to carry a Glock 9mm pistol. It is said that is the same 20-year-old who was involved in that shooting incident outside of El Gil's residence some time ago when they had that party. I think it was sometime early this year or so. I remember, y'all remember when they had the party, they said somebody with a black Mercedes went there, and someone of the young girls in the thing, they had something. They were then when he drove off, he lick shot. They said was some 17 or 19 empty cases, something like that. They said, and he drove in front of the minister Ejil's home, and then Ejil come out to give the impression that he was under attack or something like that, and then it was revealed nothing like that. A rich man's son. So I give you all enough information if you all ain't get it already. If you don't get it already. And the people who were there brandishing firearm and with that altercation with the police, check to see who they are. They are prominent people associated with certain people, associated with certain government officials, associated with certain sanctioned people. So I don't know, y'all come and telling people all this thing, you get this release and so on. But Animal Farm, all are equal, but some are more equal than others. Well, you see, I checked the thing again this morning. I said, I'm sorry I can't show it because even the still picture, it has the guns, and I don't want to run it afoul of Facebook community standards. So I can't show it. But if you go on social media, you will see it. Gun licking, shots firing, police there in civilian clothes. Police in civilian clothes. I understand this too. I understand that one of the policemen in civilian clothes there, the firearm that was issued to him has been seized and lodged. But the firearm belonging to at least the one man, the 20-year-old who's a licensed firearm holder, nothing, and then start to take that. Minister, I'm saying that when they do investigation, all of that, not only the brandishing, find out how the people got a man, a 20-year-old, get firearm, license to carry a Glock, how much money pass. if any at all. Find out. That should be part of the investigation if you really want to get to the bottom of these things. No superficial investigation. Go deep, and you're gonna see what's gonna reveal. Go deep. You're gonna see what's gonna come up. Let me bring in CC, man, for him to tell us something about this. CC, gun firing, big melee in front of a night spot, and the police said they're gonna investigate. Go ahead.
And people still lambing around. And I saw the response, or say lack of response by the police. A youngster in uniform just walk over the place, and then somebody in khaki appear, and he turn an innocent bystander. With all that's happening, an innocent bystander, no proper police response. Perhaps they were their friends, And as you mentioned, a 20-year-old get a gun. Might be interesting to see whether Jackie Opel came into play. But the thing is that police there and no proper response by the police. It's better the khaki band they run and go long way and then show up down there. Because he wasn't helpful. He wasn't able to de-escalate no situation. He wasn't able to make any arrests or anything. But then that's the Guyana police force.
Correct, that's it. Yeah, share the life, man. Share the life. Share the life. Let me run past 2000 and think, because I have, hold on. I have now, we're going to deal with this tin thing again, man. The tin thing is in the air, in the news. We spoke about it on Monday and even before. And then I saw a letter in yesterday's Kaicho News about this thing what the minister talk about. I want us to analyze. I'm gonna go through it to analyze what is being said about this old tin meter. And as we said on Monday, it is really amazing that such a simple and straightforward matter like tint and motor vehicle can be engaging the attention of the minister and senior people. It's really amazing, and it tells you the state that we are in Guyana. That is why it tells you a simple, straightforward matter like this. So here, and y'all bear with me. I'm gonna read the article, and then we are going to analyze it, right? The caption yesterday, December the 2nd, Kaicho News, $75,000 fine for illegal vehicle tint after December the 31st. After December 31st, Guyanese motorists will face strict penalties, including $75,000 fine if they are found in violation of the country's new tint regulations. This was announced by Home Affairs Minister Onej Waldron during a program on the Department of Public Information Facebook page on Sunday. The minister announced last week that drivers are now allowed to have up to 35% light penetration on their vehicles without a waiver issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs. This measure, the minister said, will apply across the board. However, restricted waivers for high security categories are to be introduced. The first and second categories will be strictly applied to diplomats, government officials, high-profile security-related persons, and other specific categories expressly approved by the Minister of Home Affairs. The minister stated the drivers will be given a grace period until December the 31st to bring their vehicles into compliance. During Sunday's program, Minister Onej Waldron outlined what Guyanese can expect as the country moves towards strict enforcement of its new tint policy. She explained that police officers will soon be equipped with tint meters to conduct on-the-spot checks. Quote, for one, there will be tint meters. Every police officer will have specific meters to test your tint on the spot. And if you are found not to be in compliance, they will be heavily fined $75,000 being leveled, not for having your tint in compliance. And the quote, Waldron said. The minister added that the relevant amendments and enforcement penalties will be brought before Parliament. Quote again, we will outline the compliance, the categories of persons that will be exempt from the policy, such as diplomats, government officials, and security. It outlines how enforcement will be rolled out in terms of the tint meter, how that is going to be executed, the fine, and the period for the fine. Most of it has already been drafted with a few adjustments. End of quote, she stated. Waldron also clarified that all motor vehicles will be required to maintain 70% light penetration of their front windshield. Quote again, it is higher than the 35%, but certainly offers protection. It is not safe to have a heavily tinted front windscreen, which we have seen as well. We are trying to make the system fair across the board so that it applies to everyone equally and fairly. End of quote, she explained. She further noted that the Guyana Police Force is expected to delay enforcement until after the grace period ends, ensuring citizens have time to comply. Quote again, so this is just one of a slew of different measures that we are implementing in response to public sentiments, to make our citizens' life less burdensome and to make them less open to bad actors and people who would want to behave unscrupulously to take advantage of the system. End of quote, Waldron said. Then they said last week in a short Facebook live stream via Facebook, Minister Waldron said that it was observed that there was an exponential increase in requests for tint waiver, with simultaneous complaints in relation to, quote, unscrupulous practices and of individuals, end of quote, who are abusing the current system in place. She said it has become clear that the system is burdensome, inconsistent, and vulnerable to manipulation. The minister disclosed that after taking this into consideration, a comprehensive evaluation of the system was conducted in addition to consultations with the Guyana Police Force and technical experts. It was decided that, quote, there will be the introduction of 3 clearly defined tint waiver categories based on assessed risk profiles in the interest of equity and to eliminate administrative delays. There will be a universal provision for basic tint without waiver, which stipulates that all motor vehicles will now be allowed tint with no less than 35% light penetration. The measure, the minister said, will apply across the board and does not require a waiver. Nevertheless, restricted waiver for high security categories are to be introduced. The first and second categories will be strictly applied to diplomats, government officials, high-profile security. That is the report in Kaicho News about the minister and this thing. And when I analyze this, I hope that this is just off-the-cuff statement by the minister, and this is not all that is going to be there in the legislation. And let me take this opportunity to highlight certain things, because I know they listen. The first thing I say that given what is written there, given what the minister is alleged to have said there, back to square one. Back to square one with all them discretionary measures and so on. Back to square one, right? Then they're asking the question here, Minister, perhaps you can explain. I think you have a more open policy than your predecessor, so maybe you can explain who will be considered government officials. We know diplomats. And even with the diplomats, I had asked the question on Monday, what category? Is it the ambassador? Is it for secretary? Is it all the diplomatic vehicles that are going to be allowed this exemption? Is it a staff member driving? Well, they said diplomats. But we know many times, you remember, it's not a diplomat you're waiving. You're giving the waiver to the diplomatic vehicle. Let me understand this thing clearly. You aren't giving the diplomats the waiver. You're giving the vehicle the waiver. So let me understand. Explain to us whether it's just the DPL 1 or whatever, or up to 2 or 3, whatever it is. Let us know. Because again, we say if it's a DPL, let us run around the place, carry newspaper or whatever, go and get tint waiver. I can see an issue there because many of those vehicles are driven by locals. So let's see how that will go. So diplomats should be fairly easy. But then you say government officials. Who are government officials? Ministers, permanent secretaries, other staff in the government ministries. Who are these people that you're going to give waiver to? Right? Who are these people? Tell us. Tell us. Because as I've said, this is going to be back to square one. All vehicles, because everybody now going to turn a government official. Everybody working in the ministry. So even if it's a cleaner, even if it's a messenger, you are a government official. That is what's going to happen. And then they say, I profile security-related persons. I profile security-related persons. So I suspect you're going to say maybe people like the National Security Advisor, maybe he's a government official as well. So who are these I profile? The head of KANU, the head of SOKU, we can understand that. But who are the other people I profile? They say I profile security-related persons. And then the kicker is the other specific categories. Other specific categories. And I know who the other specific categories will be. F, F, F. And don't think I'm vulgar. I'm talking about friends, family, and favorites. That's going to be the other specific categories. And here this, let me say this in fairness to the minister. I am not saying, Minister, you might do that. I'm not saying that you may do that. But remember, once this becomes law, is whether you are there or not. So when you leave, as you have to do at some stage, who is to say that whoever succeeds you or succeed whoever succeeds you, right, is going to not decide to abuse this thing. We had that before. And let me warn again, because it's the same, something similar happened when with the coalition, with the cybercrime law. People protested against that cybercrime legislation, and they went ahead and they passed the cybercrime legislation. They never used it. Not a single person, right? Not a single person, as I remember, was charged during the coalition for under the cybercrime act. But since the PPP came into power in 2020, oh God, they're abusing it. And who is to say that when this new tint regulation comes into play, you as a minister, because it gives the minister wide discretionary powers. Wide. That is what it says, right? So who is to say another minister? We have the man named Gadraj. You remember Ronald Gadraj? With gun license and all them everything? Remember? So I hope the sad thing is that they apparently don't look at this thing in a very comprehensive manner. Not a knee-jerk arrangements, and you run into these problems. But let me bring in CC. I have something more. I have a lot more to say on it. But let me bring in CC at this stage, and then we're going to continue. CC, I'm sure you read it. Let me hear what you got to say about this the proposal as outlined in the newspaper by the minister. Go ahead.
The confusion continues, As you mentioned, who you classify as government officials, and we're talking about high-profile security-related individuals. Perhaps you're talking about persons in charge of security services, like the sheriff. Next thing you know, the owner of sheriff security will be there. And only perhaps his deputy and others. And the whole thing boils down to the minister doesn't understand her role. The minister's role is she is responsible for policy and the commissioner responsible for operations. So all the things what you're doing, sending message, sending this, holding meetings and all kind of thing, Those are operational duties. All she gotta tell the squatter, look, I want a standing order, or I want a SOP to deal with this issue. Send it to me, and I get a team that's gonna look at it. Instead of she jumping about the place, making a whole sort of statement about it. I said it before, I might sound monotonous. 3 levels of command: the gold command, the silver command, and the bronze. In this instance, the minister is the gold commander. But the gold melting down to silver and bronze. And some of the bronze upping themselves and going to gold. Some of the silver going to gold and sometimes going down to bronze. There are levels of command. And when the minister getting involved in operational matters, all kind of things gonna happen. It's gonna reopen. The floodgates for corruption will continue. The floodgates for corruption will continue. So the minister gotta be careful in terms of what she's doing. But I mentioned about our standing order and an operational SOP. I don't think anybody in the force now who could do those things, but I could seek assistance dealing with the standing order or dealing with an SOP to deal efficiently and effectively with tint. That's today it's right, tomorrow it's wrong. You're jumping up and down the place there. The minister step out on the wrong foot, and she needs to be properly advised that she's policy and she's not operation. That she's a gold commander and she's not silver nor bronze.
Right. Let me. I agree with you. Let me address this issue that one of the students raised about if it's a diplomatic vehicle, does it matter who is driving and so on? The issue is they're saying the reason for this, in some cases, is to provide some type of anonymity or protection to the person inside. Can we talk about when the category, for example, you talk about government officials, high profile security related personnel. It has nothing to do with perhaps the vehicle, UV rays and all of that. It has to do with the security of the person. And therefore, my argument is that if it's some low-level staff going to buy greens at the market and so on, what security risk is presented to him or her? That is the issue that I want to know, right? So it has a lot to do with who is driving and the purpose for which the vehicle is used, right? It has a lot to do with that because they themselves are saying that. Yes, they did bring in a thing about UV rays or so on, but when you identify certain categories about, you said the diplomat and government ministers and so on, it has nothing to do with UV rays per se. You're talking there about a security issue so that they cannot be easily identified in the vehicle. And therefore, that brings into question low-level staff and so on. Now, let me move on with the same thing. Let me move on with the same matter. We are coming out of this now, right? As I said, the minister has too much discretionary powers because according to the statement, the minister will decide, right? The minister will ultimately decide who are these other people, these high-profile security people, and all these things. The minister will decide. So when you talk about high-profile, are we to expect, therefore, that people in this all these many security companies you have around the place, all them vehicles or them can get tint waiver too? Are they considered high-profile security personnel and so on? Tell us. Then I have here that one would have thought too. I would have thought that when the minister outlined those categories, as she did, diplomats, government officials, high-profile security people, I believe that in that same category, maybe they have it in mind and maybe it was oversight, you would have had members of the judiciary, members of the magistracy. You would have had those people there because I believe that they are more exposed or they need to be more secured than many of the government officials and so on. But by definition, if you're a government official, let me say the minister level and so on, you need to be able to interact with people and so on. You're blocking up behind some vehicle. You ought to be able to be visible to the members of the public. Whereas you have people in the judiciary, the judges, the magistrate, I would think that they must be included in any exemption that you have. Must. Either they're private vehicles or vehicles that are used to transport them around. So again, I say, I don't, maybe it is there, but I found it strange that when the minister mentioned those categories, that those people were not mentioned. They were not mentioned. And then let me go on to say, how will the enforcement work? How will this enforcement work? Are the minister confusing this thing? The minister says they're going to outline this thing, and she's saying that the policemen, let me read, she said, all police will have this tint meter. All police. And we know that can't work. You get all police tint meter. All police are going to have this tint meter, and so therefore they're going to stop and they're going to check. Right? All right. You can't give all. So there's just a flowery political statement. All policemen on duty will not be given tint meters. Let me say that. All policemen on duty will not be given tint meter. And as my colleague said earlier, what would be the SOP to deal with this thing? So they stop a vehicle. First of all, the law still says that you have to have reasonable cause, a reasonable suspicion. All right. The vehicle taps, you get reasonable suspicion, you stop the vehicle. You administer the tint meter, you apply the tint meter, and it is not in compliance. What then? That is what SOPs will answer. What then? What did they do? You say you should talk about $75,000. Sorry, right? For one, there will be tint meters. Every police officer will have specific meters to test your tint on the spot. And if you are found to not be in compliance, they will be heavily fined. $75,000 will be leveled for not having your tint in compliance. This is confusing, Minister. So what happened? Are they going to be given a ticket? Are they going to be, the information be taken from them? You're going to summon them? Or you're going to arrest them? Is it an arrestable offense? These are the things that need to be outlined. But based on what you're saying there, policeman stop you on the road and you tint not in compliance. You'll get $75,000 fine. The police fining you. These things need to be explained in detail. I know that the minister might have been caught off guard and she make these statements and so on, but you have to then put a SOP in place. You stop the vehicle, you administer the tint. What happens? Are you issuing a ticket? Is the person taken to the station? Do you have authority to take the person to the station under those circumstances? What is the role of the licensing and certifying office in all of that? Because the law as it currently stands, maybe when you go to Parliament, as you promised to do, to enact this law, they're going to give the power to all policemen to deal with it in the manner that licensing and certifying officers ought to be dealing it or now. So, all right, the person going to go to court. Are they going to be given a ticket? Or are they going to be given arrested? What happens? What happens to the vehicle, Minister? What happens to the vehicle? A vehicle is driven on the road and you stop it and you find that the vehicle is not in compliance. Let me say you issue a ticket. Is the vehicle going to be allowed to continue to drive when it is not in compliance? What happens? Will the fitness to that vehicle be revoked? Man, look, let me tell you something. I know y'all listening, man, and y'all don't think this thing true, but y'all going to play back speaking out, and you're going to make sure. Send them to Nandalal and them. It can useless. You can't put together no SOP, and there's hardly anyone in the system, in the force, who can put together a proper, well, perhaps I shouldn't say that. No one, man. Maybe you can get a team, put together a proper SOP. Because you're losing the little policemen them on the road, or the policemen on the road, to the marshes of Tiberias. because you're not giving them proper guidance and direction. So they stop this vehicle. What happens then? So you find the vehicle not in compliance. You get the thing too dark. So you're telling me just issue a ticket, allow them to continue to violate the law? That is what you're saying should happen? Again, you got to think this thing through, because I would have thought that once you find the vehicle not in compliance, then some system has to be put in place for the fitness of this vehicle to be revoked. What happens if the person wants to challenge this thing? Because remember, the tint meter is a machine, is an instrument. What happens if the person wants to challenge the accuracy of this instrument? They're going to put all of that in legislation? I hope they do that. And then what disappoints me too is that they're talking about they're allowing a certain level of tint on the front windscreen. That should not be allowed. Front windscreen, they say up to what? 65% or something like that. What happened to the rear windscreen? For example, let me show you this picture. This is the back of a vehicle. Clearly obscured. This is the back. I get a number there so you can go and check it out. Are you going to allow that? There's obscure rear view in a time when you have all these accidents and so on. That can prevent the driver from seeing what is going on. That is obscure rear view. And that should not be allowed. That should not be allowed. So again, I say, and then before I bring in CC back, what is the role of the Guyana Revenue Authority in all of this? After the 31st of December 2025, will there be a policy enforced by the GRA, the Revenue Authority, that vehicles that are not in compliance with this new regulation will not be allowed into the country? Or are you going to still allow them in and give them grace period to change? I say again, this thing is not properly thought through. It is not properly thought through. It is just politics. It just come. The vice president did make a statement a few weeks ago that the thing will be regularized and all of that, right? So I believe the minister, either on her own or now that she's given direction, right? She feel obliged to put this thing. And the next thing, I almost forget this part. This is the sweet part. The minister said that very shortly they will be going to Parliament. The minister said very shortly they'll be going to Parliament to have the necessary regulation in place. That is what the statement alleges that it are reporting that the minister said. So wait, y'all going to Parliament? Manzuna didn't know about that. Manzuna didn't know about this plan to go to Parliament to have this tint regulation become law. Is it going to be done in the absence of a leader of the opposition, of a parliament that is not properly constituted? Minister, tell us. Tell us, Minister. You see, I told y'all about my training in statement analysis. So when they come out with a statement here and I sit down and I read the thing, I can pick up all of these shortfalls immediately. And I'm using this opportunity. I am using this opportunity to bring it to your attention so that whatever fine-tuning, well, it's not fine-tuning, that is big tune that have to take place based on what is being reported to make sure that this thing is something that can be effective. Because, again, I say, the major issue that I have with it, major, too much discretionary power to the Minister of Home Affairs. Too much discretionary power. And I'm not talking about this Minister of Home Affairs. I'm talking about the Office of Minister of Home Affairs. So even though this minister might have all good intentions, what happens when somebody like Gadraj, like somebody appointed there and decide they're going to abuse the system? Because he did that to the firearm arrangement. What happens then? What happens then? You're going to go back to try to change? I can see, especially when we talk about the FFFs, and the minister has the power to the high profile and security category, and other specific categories are going to be waived. Other specific categories. That is too nebulous an arrangement. Other specific categories. So it's everybody who get a little political connection and come and can get a waiver. Everybody. Because when the big ones call the people who are responsible, they can't say no. They cannot say no. They would have to give them the waiver. And then you put in the policemen on the road under most stress and most strain. Because when they stop a person now, They're going to take out the thing. I have a waiver. That is currently part of the problem. I have a waiver. Right? And with the light penetration, let me show you this before bringing CC. This is what it looks like. I did the thing. So this is clear. This allows for 70%, so you can see what happening there. This is 50. So this is what the saying they're gonna allow, 35. So this is what a person there, you can barely identify. You might be able to see, but I don't know if you can identify a person inside. And for police work, you need to see and identify. If you're talking about police work, you need to see and identify. As I've said, I can well understand certain categories, just 15 and even 5. Right? Like the judges, the magistrates, certain security personnel, the diplomats. But then when you come, why would a minister want tint on the vehicle that people can't see there? Why? Why would a minister want that? And once the minister get it, the people associated with the minister will get it as well. Trust me on that. Once the minister gets this waiver, people associated with the minister will also get the waiver. Let me bring in CC for him to have his say on this, and then we're going to move to the next subject. Yeah, share the live, because we got to talk about this region one thing that the bunks we have with yesterday. Go ahead, CC.
The more the minister talks, the more confusing the situation gets. Let me use a couple of words. What the minister do? Wail and come again. But seek proper advice from persons. Don't just get up and say X, Y, and Z. Make sure that the things are properly thought out. As the situation stands, it is ripe for corruption. And corruption right at the ministry. So my advice to the minister is, as we say, wail and come again.
Right. And I see one of the students say minister side chicks are also going to be allowed to get. Well, let's side chicks out there. You know, side chick. They get side hen. Chick is certain age, you know. Chick, remember, chick is as we say, a young fowl. We get them old hardback fowl, them layout fowl. That can't be chick. That will be side hen. And don't be discriminating against those who are of a certain persuasion. Don't discriminate. So when you said chick, well, to the why is the opposite? Well, chick is general. Yeah? Chick is general in terms of gender. I think chick is gender neutral. You talk about the female and the male. So you may be right. You may be right. But let me don't. It can't be chick. Some of them get big old fowl, right? Layout fowl too. You know them layout board. When they lay out, then you sell them for you eat them. That is what going on there. That is what likely somebody saying some other things saying. I'm not going to say. Now, folks, share, because we're going to talk now about this incident with what I claim this drunken policeman shooting up in the Northwest District, the Region 1. I have a lot to say about it, and it's going to take the remainder, next 35 minutes or so, we're going to take on this. Let me understand this thing. We had started it on Monday, but as I've said, I showed the video with the shooting and so on. That went against Facebook, YouTube community standards, and therefore the video was pulled, the program was stopped airing on YouTube. And we decided to discontinue calling it. So I'm going to show it today. I'm not going to show, I'm going to comply with YouTube guidelines. But I can read and perhaps show you pictures. Now, let me take out this A. Let me take out this A. Hold on, are you bear with me? Let me put myself in order. Good. Today, let me deal with today Stabrook News on the same issue. It says drunken cop in AK-47 rampage transferred to Mabaruma police station. Sources. That's what it says. How do we get these sources, man? It says here, this is December the 3rd, updated at 2:53 this morning. The drunken cop who was observed in a video brandishing an AK-47 assault rifle at Port Kaituma has been transferred to Mabaruma police station, sources say. Imagine the police can't issue a release on this. When Mark Ramatar in there, he would have done nice up some stupidness. It was disclosed to Starbuck News that other ranks were also transferred as a result of the incident that circulated in a video on social media. This newspaper understands that since the incident occurred, the rank involved was never placed on close arrest. It was reported that he was scheduled to work the night shift but arrived late. He was given the keys to the strong box. However, he abandoned his post to consume alcohol and got into an argument with a civilian. Afterwards, he returned to the police station, took an AK-47, and went back to where the drinking was taking place, where he brandished the weapon. During this time, several shots were fired. The incident occurred after midnight on Saturday. So they since after midnight on Saturday, early Sunday morning, at Port Kaituma. And the police said nothing about it until Sunday night, and only after a post appeared on T. Mohammed's Facebook page. Several questions have now arisen concerning how the rank came to be in possession of the weapon and the entry that was made in the station diary. No one was injured in the air raising incident, which began on Friday night around 11:30 and ended about 12:30 a.m. Saturday on the street in Port Kaituma, Northwest District, during which shots were fired and threats issued by the cops. The Ghana Police Force so far remains silent on the investigation. Efforts made to contact the Regional 1 Commander, Senior Superintendent Krishnath Ramana, for comments proved futile. Further efforts to contact head of the Corporate Communication Unit, Mark Ramatar, also proved futile. Well, he ain't there, he gone. Right? Also, the video circulated on social media. Many citizens questioned the screening up process of ranks before being recruited by the Ghana Police Force and possibly having access to weapons as lethal as AK-47. The police force on Sunday announced that they are conducting an investigation into the incident. Well, then they go on some other stuff and so on. But there's a lot to unpack there. A lot to unpack. The thing surfaced on T. Mohammed social media page, the video. And they made some comments and they asked some questions. If we're gonna go into it, ask for police. And some of the questions are valid. Some of the questions are very, very, very valid. And I said, this is another incident, another worrying incident in Regional Division 1, Northwest District, Barima-Waini. The commander there, as they say in the blue, Krishnath Ramana is a commander there, right? Now, I say clearly, this is a clear case of lack of supervision and control. Lack of supervision and control. The question is asked, how this rank got access to this rifle? And according to what is being said here, he was on duty, and the man given the key to the strong box. Well, the strong box is where the firearms are to be stored. But what happened to the supervisor? He on duty, there's no supervisor. This man is in civilian clothes, some short pants. That is the way he was working on this shift. Lack of supervision. And they can't tell us now that they don't get supervisory ranks. They just promoted 2,800 and something people to lance corporal and sergeant and all that sort of thing. You're supposed to get 2-3 of them at every station. At least every shift now should be able to get somebody with stripe on their hand, given the number of persons that were promoted. How this man became of this firearm. So even though they said that he was given the key to the strong, by whom? The sergeant in charge gave him the key to the strong box. Who? And of course, the police said OPR investigating. Oh God, OPR again. Office of Professional Responsibility investigating. Now, any investigation, apart from the final for the firearm and so on, must involve the whole process of accountability. Whole process. Who detailing? Who else he was working with? Who was his supervisor? You want to tell me a rank working there alone so you can just go in the strong box? How a rank on duty has access to the strong box? I know back in the day, the strong box, the key to the strong box is controlled by the supervisor. the supervisor. So this man supervising himself. Clearly, he's not capable of doing that. How did he get this firearm? Right? Clearly, a case of slackness on the part from the commander right down. From the commander, Ramana, can they call some other names? And I want let me try to find this thing because it is important that you understand, because I understand this man is Port Kaituma. You get officers, you get inspectors. What are they? What was their role in this whole thing? The officer in charge of the subdivision, the inspector there. And I want to remind you all, this is the same area, Port Kaituma area, where sometime last year, over 4 tons of cocaine was discovered, Port Kaituma. 4 tons of cocaine discovered in Port Kaituma. And by God, you want to tell me that they ain't tighten up this system to the point where a rank can get access to an assault rifle just like that? It's still slackness. It is still slackness. And let me start. You got to start from the top. It got to start from the top. The commander, Ramana, was at Soku as an assistant superintendent. This is a man who applied for a summons for me to go to court. And when I turn up in court in response to the summons, the man is there to arrest me for the same matter, unlawfully for the same matter. I can't comment much about this. It engaged in the intention of the High Court. Then at some stage when the man at Soku, this is the man, same man, who arrested the lawyer, Tamika Clark, who is now a magistrate, because she advised her client not to either sign or make a statement to the police. Ramana said, tell she that she client compellable, and he arrested the lawyer. They had a big uproar on that demonstration by the lawyers and all that in front of Sook. Same man. But between the time of the incident on the 15th of October 2021, when he was an assistant superintendent, to when he arrested the lawyer, the man was accelerated from assistant superintendent to superintendent. A man who clearly displayed that he knew nothing about policing. Nothing. All right, he got there. The movie from Soku, and he there all around. He went to 4B, Diamond. Partly, they don't find favor there with he. The movie to traffic headquarters. They don't find favor there with he. The movie to C Division, East Coast. Same thing. Then the movie box, he end up in Region 1. The cocaine capital of Guyana. They put it there. And since he has been there have been many issues being stated. One, the first one I remember, shortly after he go there, maybe a week or so after he go, he arrested a man for playing loud music at the church. Y'all remember that? And then they like to say that the man was warned. So when the man was charged, he got a court a day. And because of the public uproar, they maybe warned the man and so on. Same man. Right? Same man. Same man again. Not so long ago, they had some big drug fine where some Amerindian brothers, indigenous brothers, dug up some cocaine and so on. They move in. Police at some stage seized the cocaine. It is alleged that all of the cocaine that was seized wasn't large. Same division. Same. Allegation again by a young police, a female police, that she transferred to the division, and she was there at the commander's office. And it is alleged that an inappropriate relation started with the commander and this female rank. It is further alleged that the wife found out, and the wife got to the station to kick up a ruckus and ordered that the rank be removed from there. The rank was then transferred. All these are what the allegations are, but then investigate to some location which had no facility for female. Right? And then the same rank decided that she booking a plane ticket for come to town. She was prevented from boarding the flight to come to town to make complaints. She was same man. Same Division 1. Remember not so long ago, the Corporal Prasad. Have this had this relationship with this 15-year-old female. Yeah, remember that? 15-year-old female in an inappropriate relationship. Same place, same region one. Then more recently, we learned that Soku moved into the police finance office in Georgetown and seized the old set of vouchers and documents because they were investigating a multi-million-dollar fraud involving the same division. And investigators from Georgetown traveled to Northwest Massachusetts in furtherance of this investigation, and they were told to stand down. They were told to stand down. Right? So that's what you have. And look, the reason why, I believe that the reason why they were told to stand down, because the people got connection, look, this is the commander here. This is the rank who is alleged to have had this inappropriate relationship with the 15-year-old female. See how they dress them and make sure they get on the PPP shot or a red shot, PPP color. I think you get the PPP logo on it. And they get it on. This one get the red cup. This one get the red cup. And look, that's in the civilian clothes. But look what made to the watch. In uniform, pose with the cup. Start posing with the cup. And these two, they posing with the cup as well. So that man get cover, Get cover. They can do all of this and get away with it. So coming back to this incident now, so many questions to be asked, right? So many questions. When calling for the dismissal, the Reinvest in Ghana National Party said that they should be dismissed. I don't know that I support a dismissal, but let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to have his say on this, and then I'm going to come back. I want CC get a little piece of this action, man. I can't keep you out for too long. CC, go ahead, my brother. I know you're chomping at the bit. You want them to say something. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, there are so many issues involved. How this rank got this AK-47? You just walk in the station and they give you a key for strongbox. And I know in my days, I worked Port Jumo, but things have changed. That as an SO certain hyper weapon, don't be in the office there that anybody could come and pick up. And then did they make entry in the movements of arms and ammunition book? Who authorized it? And then look at the in civilian clothing. And they left the point, the SOs do they check the arms and ammunition? I know we had an order from Baron Ragaberry, Commissioner of Police, that by 8:15 the station sergeant must check the arms and ammunition and make an entry in the station diary to show that everything was okay. But then the bigger picture is that fish is nothing from your head. And your ranks would take the pattern off you. And they'll assess you. But I can't do nonsense, by this boss man going to screw me up. No. This command is a serious man. And this kind of thing you're hearing. Fear. The fear isn't there. Fear is the key. I think Alistair McLean had a book. Fear is the key. There's no fear that there'll be sanction if you do anything. That a man could go and pick up a AK-47 and go away and display in a drunken state. Where is the supervision? And then I understand also that one of the rank was told, don't make any entry, no occurrence. But the rank was bold enough, and he write it, that instructions from the OC, that I must make no entry in relation to the occurrence. So it was a case of covering up. How could you cover up something like that? A big bra like that, Wild West, and over, I talk about Bill Clinton when the story happened, when Timothy McVeigh blew up Oklahoma City, 68 person died, 200 buildings were damaged or destroyed. And Bill Clinton said, the action that we will take will be swift, will be certain, will be appropriate. And in labor time, they got Timothy McVeigh. And how they get it? Because he used a rider truck, full it up with explosive, and detonated it. And with all the confusion, all the total destruction, the Americans were able to find the VIN, vehicle identity number, on that rider truck. And they traced it and found that it was owned by a rental agency. And McVeigh was the last person who used it. Quickly he was charged, swiftly charged, appropriate charge, and the punishment, death by lethal injection. And that's how I used to operate, When I get these incidents in, you act swiftly and then don't call people and tell them, don't write nothing, don't make no occurrence. You do more harm than good. Be swift, be certain, and take the appropriate action. What play out at Port Consumer is mind-boggling. And then I hear he upon close arrest. Imagine that. That is a criminal matter. And criminal matter is arrest, full stop. If you're dealing under the Police Discipline Act, it's close arrest. And close arrest for none more than 3 days. For matter like that, those criminal matters, it is arrest, full stop. And what they do, they transfer it to my room. Come home to daddy. Come to daddy, look after you. Come to daddy, look after you. Daddy will save you. There are so many things that we can talk about, but Paul, let me give you a piece of the button there.
Yeah, let me respond to one student in particular who said, well, we're repeating this historical facts too often. We got to repeat them. We got to put this thing in perspective, because these are not isolated incidents, right? It goes to show, we repeated it to show the quality or lack of supervision, lack of management skills on behalf of these people. And we repeated it to show that this thing is encouraged. People get sent home and for less than that. And I'm going to address the dismissal part just now. I see one student expressing concern that I said should not be dismissed and so on. But there's a process, and we're going to talk about that. Because in the release from the Win party, they identified the backstory directly under supervision of under Inspector Orwin Gordon, ASP Frank Narine, right? Puran Narine, ASP Puran Narine, and Senior Superintendent Krishnat Romana. I want, when you investigate the relationship between the rank 26860 Henry and Inspector Orwin Gordon. Investigate the relationship. And that might tell you how this rank can do this type of thing, and they're covering up. And let me say this, because it is alleged that The commander, when it was brought to his attention, told them not to make any entry in the diary. That's perverting the course of justice. If he did so, he is trying to cover up, he's trying to pervert the course of justice, right? Because that automatic, an incident like that, you have to have record. You have to make record in the occurrence book, which I think they were prevented from doing in the diary. And then a very worrying development is alleged, because what happened once the entry was made, somebody flashed the entry and sent it out, leak it out. So the entry too appeared on social media, the entry that was made by the rank, correctly made. I say the flashing is correct, but you have to make an entry. That's policing, right? The rank who is suspected to have flashed that entry, transfer. He is transferred. And I say this too, I say this because the Reinvestigation Party called for the dismissal of the commander, and the two officers, the inspector, the officer I just named, and of course the ranks who involved. Comrade, there's a process, and I believe in the rule of law, even though many of them do not, like Ikin and Demen believe in the rule of law. I believe in the rule of law. The first thing, this rank who did this act, they claim, the papers to this morning said from a source, Starbuck News said from a source, again from a source, that the man was never placed under close arrest. That is what I said. He was never placed under close arrest. And what they do? They're transferring him from Port Kaituma to Matthews Ridge. You transferring him so he can still get access to firearm. Because once he remain in the force, he can get access to firearm, either directly or indirectly. He walk in there and give gun for work with. The correct action to take against that rank is to make sure that he is put on administrative leave pending the investigation, which should be swift. So in other words, he shouldn't be made to work. He shouldn't be made to go to the police station. Administrative leave, which is the authority, the commissioner of police has the authority to do so. Okay, you're constable, right? Administrative leave. An investigation like this can't take a week, by which time his fate should be decided. Whether you charge him criminally or whether you charge him both criminally and departmentally. Let me say this, not for the same offense. The offense of discharging that firearm that is causing public terror, there's a criminal charge. Criminal charge. The fact that they say you report for duty late, the fact that they said that he uplifted this firearm, who authorized him to uplift the firearm, the fact that he's in civilian clothes when he should have been on duty, all those can be dealt with departmentally and get you a quick time. Right? So for the student who talking about a process. And don't tell me, let me remind you all, don't tell me, as a matter of fact, the kid might want to refresh his memory and don't wait for no due process and dismiss him as the way he did to at least 6 persons that I know. At least 6 persons that I not know personally, but I remember from reading, he can dismiss them. Let me remind you all of one that occurred in 2022. The first one is with the Quinlan Bacchus murder. The day the Nabriga got a court, the day McLennan got a court, and the day Simon got a court on the 5th of July 2022, he can dismiss them from the same date. They were charged criminally, he dismissed them from the same date. No due process, no presumption of innocence. And then later, or sometime during the same time, y'all remember the incident in New Amsterdam? Let me read it. Starbuck News of June the 3rd, 2023. Right? Constables dismissed over misplaced gun at Country Gymkhana. 3 constables have been dismissed from the Guyana Police Force for an assistant superintendent's misplaced, after assistant superintendent misplaced his firearm on December the 27th, 2022 at a gymkhana that was being held at Reliance East Country Borbies. The dismissed ranks are Police Constable 23717 Donovan Walker, 23258 Shaquille Smith, and 25484 Tariq McCalmont. Starbuck News was told that Constable Smith and McCalmont received their letters on April the 20th, while Walker received his on May the 17th. According to the source, Walker's name was spelled incorrectly on the dismissal letter, and as such, it had to be redone and recent. In January, Commander of Region 6, Senior Superintendent Chief Prasad Bakas, finally broke his silence on the matter and said that, quote, there was an incident, and during the incident, the police officer's firearm was misplaced. I don't want to say stolen, it was misplaced, end of quote. According to him, at the time, an internal investigation had been launched into the matter. As of yesterday, Stabroek News was told that the ASP was transferred from the Region 6 division. However, it is unclear if any other action was taken against him. Following the incident, the police released a report stating that an off-duty Barbies police constable and a friend of his were injured during a fight between two groups of men at a gymkhana held at Reliance in Kanji Barbies. McCalmont, who was stationed at the Central Police Station at the time, and law firm Humphrey 39, a laborer of Weimans Irving, New Amsterdam, were injured in the fight, which occurred around 11 p.m. Stabroek News was told by eyewitnesses that the ASP, who was then new to Barbies, arrived at the location during the alleged tour fight and allegedly attempted to discharge a round in the air. This resulted in people grabbing onto him. His firearm was reportedly taken away, and the magazine was later found at the location after the crowd dispersed. Police then launched an extensive search for the missing firearm. In January, Stabroek News was told several houses of known characters in Adelphi, Kanji, Barbies were raided, but the gun was not located. A female who allegedly had knowledge of the whereabouts of the gun after the fact was eventually arrested and charged. So I read that to say to you, these three ranks who were dismissed, no due process. They were never charged or anything like that. He can dismiss them. So this ranks from Maburuma, Port Kaituma now Maburuma. Dismiss it then, man. You have already set the precedent, dismiss it. You have enough grounds to dismiss it. And I've said criminal charge, causing public terror, shooting up gun in the area. We saw it, saw the tape. Departmental charges, right? Even if you don't want to charge him criminally, let me understand this. That is a clear case of bringing discredit on the reputation of the Guyana Police Force, contrary to Section 4D7 of the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701. Yeah, I'll make a note. Let me repeat that. It's a clear case where he brought discredit on the reputation of the Guyana Police Force, contrary to Section 4D7 of the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 17:01. Yeah, I'll take it from there. Take it from there. You get other charges in relation to him picking up the firearm. Under Section 4Z, conduct to the prejudice of good order or discipline, contrary to Section 4Z of the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701. And there are so many other offenses. So many failing in uniform, improperly dressed is a charge. There are so many. And I'm telling y'all, so y'all can take it from there, perhaps. Y'all could take it from there. You're going to tell me that man will be allowed to stay in the police force? I am not advocating for any unlawful action, but I'm saying that you got to go through the process and get rid of him. Send a message. Minister, please get involved and ask a report like yesterday. And let me hear what they're going to do. Ask a report like yesterday. There are too many incidents like this taking place. This one was captured on video, and it is there. When we talk about bringing discredit on the reputation of the force, it is clear. The force already suffering tremendously. Nobody respects the police, or very few people respect the police. It's because of conduct like that. And not only the conduct, but they look now to see what will happen to this matter. They look now to see what will happen to this matter. And a good question, how much service you get? Right? How much service? Man drinking, even there's a charge. If you get evidence that he drunk on duty, charge again. I can see, back in the day when I used to be investigating these three matters, from what I saw there and from what I read, I can find about 10 charges here. Departmental charges, about 10. Are they bad like that? About 10 charges I could find for him right away. We're going to follow it. we're going to be following to see what action is taken. The minister did make a statement that the public should talk about management and the top, and the probably not going to wait. Not going to wait. Let's bring him back, CC, to now it's almost 2 o'clock already, almost 1 o'clock rather. CC, let me give you your little button again, man. Let me give you a button, and maybe you want to give you a closing at this time too.
Okay. All right. I hope the OPR will do a proper investigation. I'm not just looking at the indiscriminate discharge of the firearm. Many questions. Was a firing order read to him? When you may fire? And then somebody mentioned what was the recruitment process? How he get the work? I always say that the Ghana Police Force should have what we call a behavioral science unit to look at behavior of members of the force at all levels. And it should start in the recruitment process. I remember certain countries in the Caribbean set up what you call assessment center. When I was in Jamaica, I attended some assessment session at Twickenham Park, Jamaica Constabulary Staff College, Twickenham Park. And during the recruitment process, they set up what you call assessment center. We have a set of trained assessors. They put you in a position to see how you will react. Some difficult position to see how you will react, looking at behavior. And I always remember a guy came from the University of West Indies, Mono campus. And in one of those situations,
I think Mr. Conway is frozen again. So let me take over because he's frozen. Let me say this. I tell them charge departmentally, I could find a 10. And just in case, just a reminder, well, not reminder, just information for y'all. Any departmental charge that is brought against that rank, I don't need the advice of the DPP. Let me understand this thing clearly. Everything y'all have said, DPP, 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 like a chant. You don't need the advice of the DPP. Investigation and charge. Each and every charge sheet should be endorsed. You know what I mean by that, Iken? Endorse the charge sheet where he is told that if he is found guilty of the charge, his dismissal of the force may be considered. This in no way means that the charge has been prejudged. That is the endorsement on the front of the charge sheet. On every charge sheet, he has to sign that. Again, you are hereby informed, well, after the notice and all them type of thing, under the endorsement, that if you are found, you're hereby informed that if you are found guilty of this charge, your dismissal from the force may be considered. This in no way means that the charge has been prejudged. And then you move ahead and you get through the, you can't understand, he didn't even get 2 years service. I understand that he has not even completed the proper training. He didn't even go through proper training. That is part of the problem. That is part of the problem. The man ain't got no training. I am one of my sources telling me. And again, endorse the charge sheet and get rid of him. And as I said, this is such a straightforward matter. Straightforward. One of the first things that you ought to have done, well, y'all don't follow the Constitution, the law, is by now, he should have been given a breach of discipline notice. You are hereby informed that they've been investigating a breach of made against you, in that you on such and such a day did so and such a thing. You have to state all the exact particulars, but tell you investigating. And that's 4Z or 4D7, as I've said, give him the notice that you're investigating. And at the conclusion of the disciplinary investigation, whatever charge was revealed, charge him with all those offenses. Charge him with all the offenses revealed. Right? Because I suspect, given some ethnic considerations, they're going to run all over the place. They are going to run all over the place, but do it right. Do it right. Give your notice. Give your charge sheet. Unless he agrees within 48 hours to plea, allow the 48 hours to pass. All are gone already, you know. By now, we should have pleaded to the charge or charges. The trial date should be set. That is what should happen. Y'all dragging out these things too long, all because y'all are incompetent. You don't know what to do. Incompetent, so that's why that's going on. I know if Ramana ever do a disciplinary matter. And in any event, a matter like this, again, the commander, none of the officers in Region 1 should be inquiring into this matter. None. Because they can all be considered to be complicit in this thing. They should not. You should instruct, because you have the authority under 1701, to get some other officer to inquire into the matter. I'm not talking here about the investigation by OPR, which should have been completed already. I'm talking about any disciplinary matter that is to be brought against him. You cannot have the officers in those in that division to inquire into this matter. Can't, because it impacts them. How this man get gone, whatever supervision, all of this everything, they too should be investigated. They too should be investigated. And we ain't gonna done, we can follow it up because we know y'all like sweep these things under the carpet. And again, I'm calling on the minister. Minister, you need to get involved, whether it's policy, whether it's whatever, to find out what is going on there. So many things gone wrong. Luckily, no one was injured or killed. Because when I saw that video with that firearm, that gun, that assault rifle being discharged, it looked like into the ground. If the bullet had struck any hard object, it could have ricocheted and killed even the man who fired it and others around. Because it looked to me, looking at the video, that it wasn't that intentional thing. He just hold the weapon careless. But the thing is, for it to have been discharged, it means he had it at stage 1. There was a magazine in the wrong in the breech. Why was the wrong in the breech? Right? All of these things should be looked into. He had a wrong in the breech, and then the finger got on the trigger, so the gun go off. The first time. And that second time, it wasn't no one wrong that went off. It was a short burst, at least 2. That is what my trained ears told me. At least 2 wrongs discharged. And the question was asked in the comment, how do you account for those bullets or wrongs that were discharged? How do they account for them? You get the commander there covering up to save his own ass and the thing. He should have been removed there too, the commander. It's a lack of supervision in that division. The fish rots from the head, not only in the division, but in the police force. And I'm reminded here of a statement made by the minister recently. Let me read what she said. Ms. Walden also signaled our government's impatience with ineffective leadership of the police force, suggesting that there could be changes in order to provide improved public safety and trust. Minister Waldron declared, quote, "This is the moment for decisive leadership. The people will not wait, and neither will I." This is the time for decisive leadership, Minister. You have it there, you see it there. It's there not only in black and white, it's there in vivid video. Just a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000 words. It's there, it's there. So as you said recently, that this is a moment for decisive leadership. The police, the people will not wait, and neither will I. You were talking about the government's impatience with ineffective leadership of the police force. So you get more evidence to support this claim that you should get changes. So what are we waiting for? What is the government waiting for? To see more incidents like this? To continue to drag the police force into the mud? Because that is what is happening. And let me say this before I bring in CC. I think he's back for his close. Buddy, what is going on in the police force? It will take a Herculean effort to it can happen. Don't believe that it cannot turn around, but it can turn around with people like Ikin and Ramana and them and others in them position. Like Sir Amaga sanctioned by the US government is still a senior police officer. Can't turn around with them inside. Cannot. And I only call those, but there are many others who have to do like Ramatar, give them the marching order, go thy way, good riddance to bad rubbish. That is what got to happen if you really want it. If you are really, as the minister said, the people will not wait, and neither will I. Well, Minister, this is an opportune time for you to show that your patience has run out in that short period of time and that you're going to wait, that you're going to get rid of some people. Send them off, man. Send them. And again, some of them should be made to retire, take early retirement, go your way. Well, it can have early retirement, because you pass retirement is long. Go your way. I don't think anyone that you choose to put there can do worse. Can do worse. It's every day is some scandal. And what is happening? No decisive leadership. And as the minister rightly says, this thing called for the government. What you say? This is a moment for decisive leadership. It is a moment for decisive leadership, not only from the Commissioner of Police, but from the Minister of Home Affairs, from the President of Guyana. It calls for decisive leadership. And you say you can't wait. The public can't wait as well. Let me bring in CC for his closing remarks. I think he back up. He was frozen a while ago, but I can't do him like cover. CC, you're closing, my brother.
Yeah, wasn't really frozen. I went to Morudi Mountain because I understand that the police, not the police, the geology of mines, they do it on the Ministry of Labor, Social Security. They're doing some investigation with a Chinese company in relation to the alleged atrocious condition there and health and safety at the gold mines in the Cayenne there. But they're not looking the other way. Morudi Mountain, which is about 4 hours drive away from Letem, they have a set of Brazilians working there. They call it Brazotong, Brazilians, mining gold. But the Brazilian running things. They're declaring some of it. They're not sending it to no gold board or no authorized agency. And they have a lot of more undeclared gold that go in to Brazil. Undeclared gold. The officials of the Mines Commission are afraid to go in there. Some of them get locked down in and let them, because if they go there, they're going to upset the apple cart. Because, why? Because one government minister is a major shareholder with the Brazilians. I repeat, one minister of government is a major shareholder with one of the gold mine company in Brazil, in Morudi, where the Brazilians dominate. The Guyanese are going to say, but they're producing, they're declaring, they're not selling to the gold board or any authorized agency, and they're under declaring, and the large amount of gold is sent to Brazil. The Mines Commission people are afraid to take action because they had experience already with the minister that if they do anything, they will upset the ministers arbitrarily. So I'm saying, what they're doing at Aurora Mines, let us send some people to Morodi Mountains and they can see what really is going on there, the conditions under which the Guyanese are working, the health and safety regulation, and as a lot of undeclared goal, and that goal is going to Brazil. And the geology and mines people are afraid to take action because it's of a connection with the minister and the Brazilians. So I hope that they take some kind of action.
Right, thank you. I hope they do it. They listen and hope they're gonna do. But there's what you call is BG, our former British Guyana, BG. But now the BG is not Guyana, it's BG, is Blight Guyana, broke up Guyana. And some people say Barat Guyana. So what you expect? That's what they say. Well, today is Wednesday, tomorrow is Thursday. I discovered that the last Thursday, 2 o'clock, what we call press conference, some call them cuss out, was held on the 6th of November, almost a month now. And the vice president has not had anything since. So one again, I have to ask the question, is he suffering from Lamborghini-itis? And he say, I told you one of the symptoms of Lamborghini-itis, remember?
I don't give a shit about his Lamborghini. But this
Lamborghini-itis. Tomorrow is Thursday again. And we are going to see if the vice president, like AWL, absent without official leave. Where is the vice president? Where? Don't disappoint me. You got to come for give me within.
It was a big bacchanal just the other day with Enid and Shimakume. Big comments the other day with Enid and Shimakume. I ain't want to hear, so I pass him straight. A fella pull me and tell me wait. Same time Enid husband get off the bus. Well, it's now the Makume start to cuss. She say, look Enid, remember it's you who say how you hire your husband so total bay. Your sweet man does come home in the house too. He could only watch and he can't say, yeah Enid, woman, why you lying on me? Girl, I'm not in your category. And if even said what you said is true, you have a man with your husband too.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to tomorrow at 2 o'clock, man. Looking forward to 2 o'clock. I always tell you, I always say to you folks, you got to be safe. As we close off this afternoon, I'm going to show you all an incident that occurred at some time. Look at this. Look at this.
They say, let's stick off. Let's see. Yeah, that man is
What you're seeing there, time right out, is a woman walking down some pavement there in town. On her foot, got stuck in that metal thing that you see there. Her foot got stuck in it. That's what I tell you, got to be safe. Imagine the type of hazard around the place, right? In other jurisdictions, that woman would get a lawyer and it's a big lawsuit against whoever is responsible for putting such a thing there. It is unsafe. So the woman walks, she foot got through the thing, and she foot can't come out. They have to send for the fire service to come with a machine to cut that iron grill to get our foot out. So that is why I say to you, you have to be extremely, extremely careful in everything you do. Not only the traffic on the road, but now even walking on the pave. with a grill like that, your foot can become stuck. Thankfully, based on the end of it, I'm going to show it another time. I don't think she suffered any real serious injury. But I will say to you, madam, go talk to a lawyer, man. That's negligent on the part of somebody. I know if it's city council. I know if it's the owner of the business. I don't know. But you need to explore that possibility, right? Folks, we have had a long morning. And I've said, God's Spare Life, we're going to come again at Friday. Today is Wednesday already. Friday going to be 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 5 o'clock Guyana time, to bring you another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption, Incompetence. Until then, stay well. Bye.